Good morning, guys. Welcome to Liverpool FC Journal. I'm Owen W. James. This is your Liverpool news update, guys. It is Saturday, but there's no football. No real football. I mean, depressing, isn't it? Very, very depressing indeed. For the fact there's not a proper game. There's international football, obviously, but no Liverpool game, no Premier League football, not until the 22nd of November. So, hey, it is what it is, guys. We've just got to kind of find our way through it, haven't we? Find our way to get through this next week and a bit before we head back to real football. We're going to talk a little bit of Luis Diaz, what Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, former Leeds and Chelsea player, has been saying about Liverpool and Luis Diaz. I'm also going to talk a little bit about are Liverpool going to have their hand forced in January in terms of certain players that they reportedly hold an interest in due to movements by other clubs. Now, look, I suppose you should never have your transfer policy dictated by other clubs, but when you've got people that you want to sign and there are moves perceivably by other clubs to get those players in January ahead of you, you maybe have to move perhaps quicker than you wish to. Now, we did mention on the video yesterday that came out yesterday in terms of Mark Gahey that it is believed that Liverpool are ready to move for Gahey in January, if possible, because of the fact that it's rumoured that Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Real Madrid all possibly lining up pre-contract agreements for January for Mark Gahey, as well as obviously Premier League interest from Manchester United. Yes, you heard me right, Manchester United. That's a complete joke. Chelsea, Tottenham, teams like that also reportedly interested in securing Mark Gahey's services. So I'm not going to spend too long on Mark Gahey, but it does look like there could well be a move for the player in January because of that worry that Liverpool miss out to one of those big European giants of Barca, Real or Bayern Munich. Now, the other player that has been mentioned, obviously, in relation to this is Antoine Semenyo. Now, there's been a hell of a lot of stories going around about Antoine. The first one that came out, which was the fact that apparently, according to one source, that he wanted to leave in January, that he was unhappy and wanted to move on. Semenyo and Bournemouth have both denied that story. Semenyo himself apparently is very angry that was put out there, that he says there's absolutely no truth in that rumour at all. He is not demanding to leave. He is not demanding a move at all and remains committed to Bournemouth. However, he did talk about the fact that he does eventually want to go on to play for one of those big clubs within the EPL, which is fair enough. It's nothing against Bournemouth, but realistically, you look at Bournemouth, they're not in the same league as a Manchester City, as a Liverpool, as an Arsenal, as a Chelsea, for example. Now, according to reports in a number of sources and also quoted by Sky Sports as well, Antoine Semenyo is attracting a lot of interest from Manchester United, from Manchester City, from Tottenham for a January move. Now, that is the story that is going round. Sky Sports reporting that. So it's not like it's some ridiculous source like Team Talk or IndyCarly or anyone like this. Sky Sports are reporting that Liverpool, Manchester City, Tottenham and Manchester United are monitoring Antoine Semenyo ahead of the January transfer window. The forward did sign a new contract in the summer amid interest from other clubs, and Semenyo has continued to impress teams with his outstanding performances for Bournemouth this season. Semenyo obviously has done fantastically well this, in terms of his goals output. Semenyo scored 6 goals this season. Only Erling Haaland with 11 and Thiago of, I think it's Brentford, with 8 are ahead of him. This follows obviously on from the fact he scored 11 league goals last season. He's on track to comfortably beat that. So look, there's definite talk that he is attracting these interests. Now, the stories that Sky Sports are quoting in terms of Semenyo, who's also managed 3 assists, so 9 goal contributions in 11 games for Bournemouth this season, is that a number of these clubs may well push through and move in January for the player. Now, Liverpool were reportedly ready to wait till the summer to move for Semenyo, so went the reports. I mean, I don't know how true that is. I'm not in the know. I'm just kind of putting it out there for you guys to talk about and to discuss. At the end of the day, look, this is an issue. So if there is a move for Semenyo by one of those other clubs, by Man City, by Tottenham, by Manchester United, whoever, in January, could this well force Liverpool's hand to move for the striker? It's thought they're a big admirer of Semenyo. They see him as a solution to the left-sided attacking problems. I mean, we were told at the start of the season that there were 6 forward players, but I think realistically there's 4. The manager doesn't appear to trust Rio Ngamoa, despite the fact they said they didn't want to sign anyone because they didn't want anyone in Rio's way. Rio's had 30 minutes of Premier League football this season, hardly a ringing endorsement from the manager, and Federico Chiesa is continually left out. For what reason? I can only guess. So Semenyo could be on the move in January. If this is the case, Liverpool would be stupid, I think, to turn down the opportunity to sign him. He is a quality player. He's someone who could come in and be that replacement to Luis Diaz. And the fact that, obviously we've never replaced Luis Diaz. Cody Gakpo needs a backup. You can talk about Florian Wirtz playing out there, but realistically, that's not where Liverpool want him to play. Arne Slot kind of made that clear, although Wirtz has said that he's happy to play anywhere, which flies in the face of what certain individuals have tried to spin as a story, saying that, Liverpool will make Wirtz unhappy by playing him there on the left. Gakpo continues to be the main starter there, but there is no backup, there is no press, there is no pressure to him. What worked exceptionally well last season was when you had Diaz and Gakpo each pushing each other to higher levels. Both of them were very, very good during the title-winning season. Now, in terms of Luis Diaz, former Leeds and Chelsea player and former Burton manager, now turned pundit, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank has been talking about Luis Diaz and saying that in his opinion Liverpool made a huge mistake letting Diaz go, or at least not replacing him. This is what he said. He said, letting Diaz go, in my eyes, should never have happened. They should have gone and got a winger then. You've got Ekitike in the building. He is doing well. He hit the ground running and was scoring. Isak comes in and Ekitike goes on the bench. What does that do to Ekitike? And what does that do for the squad? That's an interesting question that Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank raises. Look, fortunately, it hasn't damaged Hugo Ekitike's morale. He, to me, is actually better than Isak in terms of his goals output and the way he's playing this season. He looks, I think, potentially long-term a better option anyway. He then went on to say this: whatever you say, it's not good. And that is the problem you're going to get. You have that problem. Then on top of that, you have to find the players who work. Now, look, I'm not sitting here this morning and saying, or this afternoon, whenever you're watching the video, and saying that we should have kept Luis Diaz, that we should have paid him a nice big bumper contract, kept hold of him. The money was there. We took the money for a player who, would have been out of contract in 2 years' time, who, if you're going to extend him, you're going to look at taking him into his 30s. Do you realistically want to do that, especially given the fall off by Salah this year? So, I think it was right to sell him. However, the big mistake for me was not replacing him. And I think the failure to replace him is a huge error. How many games this season when we've been struggling, if we'd had a Diaz to come off the bench, would it have made an impact? I think a number of games. How many times do you think Slot's looked at the bench and gone, we haven't got anybody? Unlike last season, when if he started Diaz, he could have Cody come on. If he started Cody, he could have Luis Diaz come on. There was options there. Also, Luis Diaz provided you that false nine option as well. So I think he is a big loss. So the failure to replace him, I think, was a massive, massive error by the club, a huge mistake. And I think it's something they do need to put right. Look, we've talked about the quiet January. I would love to see us go and get at least a centre-back and a left-sided forward, take this team in towards the end of the season if they've got any real ambition at winning the Champions League, for example, or winning an FA Cup as well. Look, I think the league realistically is going to be a tough ask, but the Champions League could be something that could well be still within Liverpool's grasp with the right signings in January. Guys, I'd love to know your thoughts. Drop me a comment and let me know. If you've enjoyed the content, please obviously help the new channel grow. Smash a like, smash a sub, and obviously share the video. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you on the next one.